Outstanding. So I think we're going to go ahead and start. I think people will continue to trickle in, but I'll save the brunt of what we're going to discuss from when we actually hop into the product demo. So hey everyone, my name is Michael Oftanomov and I'm a solutions consultant here at Blueshift. Thanks so much for joining me today in our demo series. As the title suggests, today we're going to be taking a look at how to use multi-channel campaigns to increase engagement, of course, while leveraging Blueshift. So the majority of today's demo is going to be focused on how to leverage many of the different channels that Blueshift provides out of the box. And that's the sole purpose is going to be focused on driving engagement. Now, this is, of course, more important than ever in today's environment, given how user behavior has changed over the last 6 months during our shelter in place throughout the world. Customers today are inundated with messages and information from dozens of brands. So we'll be exploring a few ways on how to effectively differentiate our messaging by using different channels, sending at optimal times, and easily A/B testing all the different copy and creative that we send out. And of course, we'll be tying that back into how Blueshift allows you to easily accomplish all of that. So the agenda for today is very straightforward. We're going to briefly spend 5 minutes discussing who Blueshift is if you're unfamiliar, and why we'll help you drive this engagement and simplify the process of sending the right message to the right user at the right time. From there, we're going to spend most of today's session inside the actual platform, looking at how easy it is to construct these multi-channel campaigns, and then of course, proving their effectiveness relative to campaigns that only leverage 1 or 2 channels. And I'm also going to share with all of you some of the key insights that we've gleaned with a recent empirical study that we conducted on billions of messages sent via Blueshift. And then finally, for point number 3, we'll wrap up with a brief Q&A. Please be sure to ask any questions as they come to mind, and I'll answer either during the demo or once we reach our Q&A session. Should we run out of time, I can also follow up with you directly with your questions. So now I'd like to share a little bit of background with everyone regarding who Blueshift is. As a sales engineer by trade, I personally have a strong aversion to lengthy PowerPoints. I'm always getting on my account executives to keep them brief. So I promise I'm going to be super brief in terms of the PowerPoint, and we'll spend most of our time today in the actual platform. So Blueshift provides a customer data platform coupled with world-class marketing automation, and both of those help brands intelligently scale their customer engagement on every single channel. And all of that is, of course, powered by our AI and machine learning tech. As you can see here, we work with a number of different brands across a variety of industries. We're also backed by some of the world's leading investors. Blueshift has also been recognized by a number of major research and advisory firms, including Gartner, Forrester, and then also our platform has been voted on and validated by our customers themselves as a leader in the CDP and marketing automation space on G2 Crowd. And then finally, we ensure the security of our clients' data so that our clients can sleep peacefully at night, knowing that we're always ahead of the curve in terms of meeting compliance and local regulations, such as with GDPR and CCPA. In terms of flexibility, Blueshift partners with all of your favorite data platforms, tag management systems, and other third-party vendors so that marketers like yourselves can seamlessly connect and integrate with all of your existing systems. So now that we've talked a little bit about who we are, let's dive into functionally how does Blueshift work at a high level. So Blueshift is going to take your first-party and third-party customer data about both known and anonymous users from your various data sources, and then we're going to create a holistic individual customer profile, and we'll continue to enhance and augment that profile with more information as we learn it about your users' behavior and anything describing their state or who they are. We're also going to enhance all of that data by using AI to make predictions about your customers, including predicting the likelihood to make a purchase or churn, what products we should actually recommend to them, when to actually send those messages, and then where to engage with your users. And so by combining your customer data with Blueshift's AI and multi-channel journeys, we make it really easy to deliver this one-to-one personalization everywhere. And as I'll be sure to show you once we get into the actual product demo, we've productized and abstracted away a lot of this. So the idea here is we've made it really simple for non-technical marketers to get all the scale benefits of leveraging machine learning without having to necessarily rely upon a data science team to give them those insights, or without having to involve any of the overhead associated with having data science crunch these numbers and come up with their own predictive scores. And then beyond that, Blueshift also seamlessly captures all customer interactions from those personalized messages and then uses it to continuously and automatically improve predictions so that the customer experience is always going to be relevant and updated. All right, so we've done a lot of discussion. I told you I would keep it super brief. Hopefully that was sufficiently brief for everyone's expectations. So now let's go ahead and dive into the product demo. And we're gonna explore how easy it is to leverage Blueshift for building out these multi-channel campaigns. So first things first, we're now taking a look at the dashboard. As we can see on the left-hand side, we're here in the campaign section. And what we're doing is we're looking at the final state of a multi-channel campaign that is targeting users in a specific segment. And so I'm showing you this campaign. It's a final state, everything's been created just to show you what it looks like and kind of talk you through it at a high level. And then from there, we're actually gonna build one in real time, because one of my favorite parts of the demo is actually seeing how it's done. That adds a little bit of a validation rather than just saying, trust me, this is very simple to do. So first things first, what we're taking a look at here is a segment triggered campaign. So out of the box, Blueshift is going to support one-time send campaigns, recurring campaigns, as well as event triggered campaigns, which I'll show you shortly. So no matter how you want to architect or build out this campaign, we can easily accommodate your use case there. From there, I've given it a name, I've assigned it a tag. As you can imagine, especially with our larger customers, being able to methodically tag and identify and then later return to specific campaigns is very important. And then the final step here is just designating a segment. Of course, we have a specific area in the platform to build out those segments, so it makes it really easy to reuse them. And then of course, we're also going to show you approximately how many users qualify for that segment. So right before I launch, I can know if I'm accidentally about to send this message to every single user in my that exists, or if I'm accidentally going to just send it to only 10 users. It's good to have that information ahead of time. So from there, having qualified for this campaign, a user is then going to go from top to bottom, left to right, in terms of how we evaluate what message they should receive. So here we are following down this path. We're going to see if this user qualifies for this low churn email. And as you can see here, we're also going to have some control in terms of when we send out this message. So specifically, what we're taking a look here is I'm specifying how long do I want to wait for this user to actually receive this message. And then we're also going to give you some more granularity in terms of when this message sends via what we call day parting. Day parting essentially just allows you to control what times of day a user can receive a specific message. And then of course, because we know what time zone the user is in, we'll make sure it's reflective of the time zone that they're actually in. So now that I've specified when I want this message to potentially send out, let's actually establish how I'm going to target these users. So here, all I've done is just added some additional segment criteria. So we can see here, I'm targeting my users with a low probability of churn. They have between a 0 and a 25% chance of churning. As I alluded to earlier, Blueshift is going to compute these predictive scores on a recurring basis. So we're constantly looking at a user's behavior. How long has it been since they browsed? How long has it been since they've actually purchased something? And then we can make these powerful inferences on whether or not a user is likely to churn. So what we're saying here is, hey, Blueshift has figured out that this user has a 25% chance of churning in the next week or less. And then if a user qualifies for that segment criteria, we're then going to send them one of potentially several creatives. This campaign has already been built, so I'm not going to augment it by building out an A/B test, but we'll touch on that when we build a campaign from scratch, I promise. And then conversely, let's say that the user instead has a very or a higher chance of churning, between 26 and 100%. They're then not going to qualify for this message, so they move to the right and will qualify and receive this message. So following up on that, we're then going to move on down, and we'll see that this user, no matter which path they follow down, they're going to receive a follow-up email. And then from there, we're going to send them either a push or an SMS. One last thing I want to draw your attention to here is the fact that we support channel affinity out of the box. And so one really powerful success story we have here is one of our customers, Groupon, just by leveraging channel affinity, which is to say they relied upon Blueshift to figure out which channel is most likely to convert or be performant for a certain user. And by using channel affinity for the campaigns in which they used it, they were able to increase the revenue attributed to those campaigns by 81%. And what's so nice here is, much like many of the other things we've discussed, is that this is all productized. This is all abstracted. As a non-technical marketer, I can come in here and just specify this channel affinity, and I don't have to do any of the calculations. I don't have to wait for data science to feed this information into Blueshift. It's all being computed by Blueshift themselves. And so now, having selected that the user should receive this push notification because that's the most performant channel and they have a channel affinity for it, they'll receive that. Otherwise, if they have a channel affinity for SMS, they'll receive this SMS. Awesome. So I think we've done a good job highlighting how we can determine when we want to send this message out, how we control how a user progresses through this campaign, whether it be receiving message A or message B. Let's go ahead now and spend a fair amount of time jumping into actually building out one of these campaigns. And then if we have some time, I'd also like to jump into the insights section of the dashboard and show you how we can empirically validate everything that we've done. So maybe it's the case that, you know, a variant we expect to be high performing isn't, and we can of course prove that it is or is not here in the insights section. So moving up next, let's go ahead and jump into the campaigns overview. So all I've done here is now I've clicked on this campaigns button, and we're taken to this home screen where I can see all of the metrics computed for every single campaign. And then of course, broken down by each individual campaign, I can also see those same metrics. But then what I want to do is actually walk you guys through live building out one of these multi-channel campaigns. So we can see how simple it is. And then of course, we'll spend some more time later on discussing the impact and the actual lift that our customers have realized in doing so. So all I'm going to do is click on this plus campaign button in the top right-hand corner, and then come on down here to event triggered. I'm going to assign this a name. Let's get super creative and call this Michael's campaign. And then from there, we're going to be greeted with that very familiar screen. So just like a segment triggered campaign, very similar workflow. The only differentiator here is that we're going to choose whether or not we want this to be triggered by an API or by some type of event. So let's just choose some random event. Let's say a user can qualify and enter into this campaign when they've added an item to a cart. Of course, we make it really simple to track these events, whether it be via one of our SDKs or via API, wherever those events exist today. We make it really simple to get into Blueshift. So from there, intuitively enough, if I want to add a new message or what we call a trigger, all I'm going to do is click this button. And then from there, I'm going to be presented with many different options. So fundamentally, out of the box, Blueshift is going to support the 4 major channels: email, push, in-app messages, as well as SMS. And then I also want to draw your attention to some of these other providers that we work with. So it's really nice to have access to these other channels, in so much as part of this complicated, complex campaign flow, I can decide whether or not I want to post some data and maybe retarget this user via some paid media, such as with Criteo. Or maybe I want to post this to Salesforce, update some sort of CRM record, knowing that this user has taken a certain action. And so of course, because we offer these channels as part of this campaign workflow, that's really simple to do. But back to our original motive, which was to build out one of these multi-channel campaigns. Let's just go ahead and do it pretty quickly. So all I'm going to do here is select email. From there, I'm going to be presented with options. Let's just send this immediately. I'm not going to add, actually, yeah, let's add some criteria saying a user has an affinity for a specific channel. And then of course, this channel is email. So from there, all we've done is now we're letting Blueshift do the calculation to say, if email is the most performant channel for a user, then let's send them this message. And then final step is just choosing the message or the template that I would like for this email. So I'm just going to choose my abandoned cart 1. As you can see down here, if I want to do a subject line test, we also make A/B testing super simple to do. If I want to add an entire additional creative, I can just hit this button. And then from that same dropdown, I'm just going to choose another creative and select a percentage of users that should be randomly assigned to this variant. So we're going to put 30% of our users into that variant. No limits on the number of variants. So if you want to go super gung-ho and build out 20 variants for your A/B tests, of course, you're more than welcome to do so. And then final step here is just hitting that create trigger button. So let's say instead, I want to send a push. Let's say email has historically not been very performant with my users. Perhaps I'm a mobile first company and I want to leverage or lean on push. all we're going to do is come in here. We're going to select that user affinity. Once more, we're going to say they have a messaging channel affinity for push. Now, normally this is going to drop down. I am in a demo environment, so this data has not been pre-filled, but just know you don't have to actually type this in traditionally. There is a drop down in a production environment. And then final step is, of course, choosing our template. So let's do, how about some sort of weekly promotion, and I'll see the Android variant for that. There we go. And then just like before, I'm going to hit create trigger, and we're going to see that built out. Super simple. And once more, I'm relying on Blueshift to do that decisioning. So I'm going to see that uplift that I had mentioned earlier with Groupon or something comparable, just because I'm sending a message to a user on the channel that's relevant to my, my customers. And then of course, I don't have to rely upon other teams internally. As an individual marketer, I can have all this decisioning made super accessible and easy to use. From there, of course, if I want to add additional triggers, it's just more of the same, super intuitive, super simple. Now I just want to walk through some of the options. So we brushed over this a little bit earlier, and I want to spend a little more time just discussing some of the options available to us here. So first and foremost, we can decide when we want to send this message. That's straightforward enough. Let's say I want to add a 1-day delay after that triggering event. Super simple to do. Now, another thing I want to discuss is send time optimization. So just as I told you, we can decide what channel to send this message to the user. We can also decide, or Blueshift can also decide on your behalf, what is the best time of day to message this user. And so a little success story on the importance of send time optimization. LendingTree, publicly traded company, very savvy marketing team. They were able to realize a 35% uplift in revenue for messages that leverage send time optimization relative to messages that did not. So again, it's just a huge quick win for marketers, and there's very little overhead involved because Blueshift is doing all this computation on your behalf. So I don't have to get this information from other teams. I don't have to wait for someone else in product or in my data science team to feed that information into me. So all I'm going to do in here is come on down to optimize send time and then click that. It is very straightforward. Of course, we'll also give you the option to limit the total amount of time that can pass before we'll send the message anyways. So let's say, you know, if they qualify for this message, we're not going to wait more than 12 hours, even if it's suboptimal in terms of when we think they should receive it. Another feature I want to talk a little bit more about was day parting. So day parting here, I think the story I like to tell here is I remember reading this article about Starbucks rolling out their Frappuccino happy hour. And so of course they wanted to send push notifications to their users, alerting them a little bit in advance saying, hey, Frappuccino happy hour is coming, get 50% off when you go to your local Starbucks. However, there was this big controversy or there was some blowback because they had sent many of those users the Frappuccino happy hour alerts at like 1 a.m. Now, of course, that's not super performant. Most Starbucks, so far as I know, are closed. So users were a little frustrated with that experience. So this is a perfect scenario for using day parting. We're just completely in control over what times of day we can send this message. And as I mentioned earlier, Blueshift is going to track the time zone for our users. So this is going to be specific to where the user is. I don't have to worry about localization or anything. Last step, just hit save, and we're going to see that reflected right there. Beyond that, segmentation, super simple. I'm not going to spend tons of time here because I see we are nearing the time where we want to jump into insights and maybe spend a little bit of time in the QA, but just know we have a plain English selection tool. We make it super simple to do segmentation. And unlike some more legacy clouds, these computations are done in a matter of seconds. You don't have to wait for any sort of batch job. We're constantly evaluating if a user qualifies for these segments. Outstanding. So we've covered everything in terms of how do we build out these messages leveraging many different channels. How easy is it for me to actually add additional channels? And then of course, we've discussed how Blueshift is going to abstract away all this decision making. So Blueshift will tell you and automatically send at the right time. We'll use the right channel. And then of course, we make it really simple to A/B test and figure out which variant is best performing. And so to that point, how do we actually analyze which campaigns are most performant, which channels are most performant? How can we reflect upon how our campaigns are doing? And the answer to that lies in our insights section. So let's go ahead and jump in here. And what I wanted to build specifically was just a report. And so just as the name suggests, an insight report is a more granular look at how a given campaign or A/B test or message is actually performing, whereas a dashboard is a more holistic view. So this is really great for middle managers or executives to come in and get a quick snapshot into how everything's doing across various KPIs. So to create a new report, let's just go ahead and do this in real time. I'm just going to click that create button. We're going to give our report a name. Report name goes here. First step is going to be selecting the metric that we want to look. Of course, we offer a bunch of core metrics. These are fundamental things like clicks, opens, revenue, any of the fundamental things you might want to know about a campaign. If you don't see any of the metrics that matter to you, of course, we can also import custom goals, really simple for us to track those and generate insights reports on them. And then finally, if we want something a little more complex, maybe I want to look at my click to open rate. Maybe I want to see my average revenue per user. This is where compound metrics come into play. So what I wanted to take a look at is, let's take a look at revenue per send, just some arbitrary metric. And then we're going to choose our timeline. And then the last step is just seeing or choosing our grouping. So let's go ahead and group this by campaign. Maybe I want to see how my top 4 campaigns are actually performing. And then to make this a little more palatable or a little better visually, I'm just going to change that to overall. And then let's actually limit this a little more. And there we are. So we can see how all of our various campaigns are actually doing, both visually as well as more quantifiably here in this column. So really simple for us to infer what is the revenue percent, what is the ARPU per campaign, which variant in an A/B test is most performant, things of that nature. Outstanding. So we're running up on time, and I want to make sure we have sufficient time for wrapping things up in Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and return to that PowerPoint now. So I hope all of that, the product demo was useful. We focused on how easy it was to leverage multi-channel campaigns to boost our users' engagement. And now I want to give some more empirical evidence supporting some of the things we discussed. Because a lot of this is abstract, or I'm just making claims that this is more performant. How can I validate that in everyone's eyes? So to that end, Blueshift conducted a recent study of over 14.9 billion messages sent by our current customers. And here are some of the findings of that report. So first, emails triggered in response to a user's behavior are 497% more effective than batch and blast campaigns, which is to say they provided a 468% higher click-through rate and a 525% higher conversion rate. Push notifications triggered are almost 1,500% more effective than batch and blast campaigns, 279% higher click-through rate and a 2,700% higher conversion rate. Predictive recommendations are 116% more effective than non-predictive recommendations. Intuitive enough, but again, these are very simple things that we can accomplish with Blueshift that provide huge uplift. And then the final finding I want to share, and the one that I think most validates everything that we've discussed today relating to multi-channel campaigns and driving engagement. Multi-channel campaigns are 283% more effective than single-channel campaigns, which to say these multi-channel campaigns had a 234% higher click-through rate and a 331% higher conversion rate. So these are staggering figures, but again, it just really drives home this idea that simple changes, such as building behaviorally driven campaigns that leverage many different channels, can culminate in a huge uplift for our various KPIs. And then, of course, at the end of this webinar, I'll provide all of you with a link to where you can download that trigger-based marketing report from our website. All right, it's Q&A time. So I apologize. I'm still somewhat new to the Zoom Q&A feature. So let me see if I can get this pulled up. There we are. I found it. All right, we have no open questions that I'm aware of. So awesome. Probably should have checked that before I wrapped up the demo, but we have some buffer time if any questions come to anyone's mind. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to give you guys 4 minutes back of your day. Awesome. So it looks like no questions are coming through. So I'm just going to wrap things up here. Once again, my name is Mike Lofton-Omoff here at Blueshift. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to come and learn a bit more about what we do. So I hope this is useful, and I hope you all have a great Friday and a good rest of your weekend as well. Thank you.